going on, everybody? Welcome back to Resurrect. Now, it's been quite some time, I know, and I just want to apologize. It's been almost a year now, and I just want to let you know what I've been up to during this time. And I just want to let you guys know that my primary business is not cars. It's actually in the construction industry. And because of COVID and the market here in Florida, my business just boomed last year. And so I just decided to take all my time and effort and really ride that wave of work while it was available, because I don't know if this year is going to do the same thing that happened last year. So that's where I've been, but I just wanted to let you guys know that I haven't given up on this channel. I haven't given up on this Ferrari build either, and we're going to continue to work on this. I'll also say that the Ferrari parts was a big holdup in this project, and I never realized how difficult it is to actually obtain brand new Ferrari parts. And some parts are almost impossible to get. So I really did need a donor car to continue on with this build, and I finally found one for a reasonable price. So that's what this video today is going to be discussing. Me getting this car, I'll reveal how much I paid for it, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I've sold off this car in parts and where I'm at financially with the sales of these parts, and how I hope to possibly obtain my parts for the Ferrari build for free. So let's check out this video and you guys can see a little bit more about where I'm at in this project. I found this car at an insurance auto auctions in Miami, and I actually had to spend more on this car than the 458 I'm actually going to attempt to rebuild. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm headed down to Miami right now to go pick up the parts car for the Ferrari. So hopefully this thing has all the parts I need, and hopefully there's some parts left over that'll be worth some money, but this thing's pretty trash. So let's go check this thing out. So I'd been watching auctions for almost 6 months before I found this particular car. And I actually found very few 458s with good front ends that were selling less than $70,000. So perhaps you're wondering what a Ferrari 458 in this condition would sell for. Well, a 458 in this condition is probably going to set you back about 40 grand. But among the 458s with good front ends and the ones that have decent dashes, it sold on the relatively low end of the price spectrum. Perhaps you think $40,000 is a lot for a car in this condition, but you got to remember that you're contending with exotic car parts dealers, and a good engine alone could be worth 20 to 30 grand, a good transmission worth 10 to 15 grand, and so many parts on this car are worth at least $1,000 or more. You can see how the value can really add up quick. As you can tell though, my engine is in pretty rough shape, and most of the electronics in the vicinity of the engine and transmission are severely toasted. But a quick glance at the front end and it's complete and in decent shape. I still had not learned my lesson though about showing up with a trailer that is too small, which caused me to damage a perfectly good door that is worth about 3 grand. So I have since then invested in a trailer that is wide enough. Once I got the car home and I got it on the lift, I started to examine the damage carefully and go through some of the papers that I found in the car, and I pieced together that the car belonged to an exotic car rental company. After combing through this car, this made sense because the car was in really substandard condition with a lot of shoddy repairs. For example, someone had reupholstered sections of the car with vinyl, and the wheels had many cracks in them and previous paintwork. The brake calipers were resprayed with rattle cans. The car was definitely not well cared for and was just used as a rental income only. It also looks like the fire may have started near the fuel tank on the driver's side, but it was hard to tell exactly. I'm pretty sure the owner of this Ferrari was more than happy to claim the insurance money on this car, seeing as it had been run into the ground, comparatively speaking to other Ferraris, which typically are babied and rarely driven. Of course, the carbon ceramic brake discs and calipers are worth a considerable amount of money, and the discs on this car are in awesome condition. Thankfully, this car was given some upgraded options, which is helping me recuperate some of the initial costs that were paid for this car. For example, the suspension is upgraded and has an electronic adjustable dampening system, which my other 458 doesn't have. Much of the interior is OEM carbon fiber, including the steering wheel, console, door trim, and some of the dash trim, And the seats, even though damaged, are the carbon fiber race seats, which are definitely less available than the standard 458 seats on the used market. The seats that I pulled, even though they were slightly singed by the fire and reupholstered in vinyl, still landed me about $7,000, which paid off a pretty large chunk of this car. So far, I've recovered at least half of my initial investment on this car. After a long time of searching for the best deals on used Ferrari 458 parts, I'd calculated that if I had purchased everything I needed piece by piece from a salvage parts dealer, I would have needed between $40,000 to $60,000 to acquire all of the parts I needed. So as you can see, the price that this car cost me was literally the only way that this project could be achieved on paper without completely landing upside down financially. I also learned that the structural parts, like the ones shown here, are unavailable from the dealer and are only sold to Ferrari certified body shops. This is also true for the complete engines as well. This is at least what the parts counter at the local Ferrari dealer told me. The automatic top was pretty difficult to remove. The car has a couple manual release cables on either side of the car that you have to pull with one finger, but on one side the cable was completely gone. It actually took me several hours to get the mechanism to release, but once I did, I was able to remove the large tray that sits right above the engine. And with the tray removed, I can get a better look at the condition of the engine and start removing it. The fire really did a number to this engine, and I also found huge molten puddles of aluminum under the car that had solidified. I also think the fire probably started around the left side fuel tank, which looks like it probably burst during the fire. I really couldn't get my engine stand in a good position with the long transmission hanging off the back, so I just set up some jack stands under what was left of the rear subframe, and once everything was loosened from the engine, I just raised the car on the lift. Now in the process of doing this, I accidentally forgot to remove a fuel hose that goes between the left and right fuel tank, and I damaged a perfectly good fuel tank that's worth about $2,000, and I got gas everywhere. Getting the mechanicals out of the car involved a lot of patience, until I ran out of patience and I just used a hacksaw. I debated whether or not to sell the engine and transmission as a set, separate, or as parts. Typically, the more you break down the car, the more money you'll get for the car, but you'll have to store parts for much longer. So I chose to sell the complete burn transmission as one piece, seeing as most of the internal parts have no individual part numbers, and to break down the engine into every single little part since I could find part numbers for all of those parts. The idea here for me was to separate any part that was damaged by the fire and just scrap it. Plus I wanted to see what the inside of this engine looked like and how it was assembled, and I wanted to get an idea of what the condition of the engine was, seeing that it was probably poorly cared for, and it's just harder to sell a complete engine that you can't test. Once I got the heads off, I could tell that this engine was a poor specimen. The face of the heads, as well as some of the pistons, had some heavy pitting on them, as well as some of the valves. I'm not sure exactly what happened here, but I speculate that when someone returns a rented Ferrari, they probably fill it up with the cheapest fuel possible. And Ferraris, which I recently learned, not only require premium fuel, but they require premium fuel that has no ethanol in it, which is pretty tough to find. I literally only found 2 or 3 gas stations within a 1-hour radius that sell Ferrari approved gas. I'm thinking using the wrong fuel might have caused some of this pitting, but I could be wrong. And I'm thinking what a pain in the butt it is to own a Ferrari that needs unicorn gas. And I did end up removing the pistons as well as the crankshaft, but my camera died and I didn't know. So for now, this is where we leave off. Alright guys, so I just want to thank each and every one of you for watching this video. This is where we've left off, and now the next part is going to be harvesting some of the actual parts we'll need from the frame to transfer over to the new Ferrari. But along the way, there's a lot of hurdles. I've had to upgrade a lot of my tools. Some of these things that I had from past videos are just not going to cut it on a car like this. So it really takes a lot of time and investment in tools, trying to find parts. It is very challenging to take a car that is as damaged as our project car and to make a nice product out of it. But that's going to be our goal, to have a reasonably priced Ferrari 458. I'm hoping that I can accomplish that, and hoping everything goes smooth. But I'm going to take you guys through this journey on each and every step, and I just appreciate each and every one of you. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.